Hi, everyone. Again, this is Nadeem Sikandar with the module number 3, Child Psychology and Overview of Cognitive Development. Let's look at this module now. What is cognitive development? Just as a refresher, cognitive development is the study of the child whose neurological and psychological development. Specifically, cognitive development is assessed based on the level of conception, perception, information processing, and language as an indicator of their brain development. So, simply put, cognitive development is a way of addressing the way a child learns to think, reason, and use language, which are vital to the child's overall growth and development. What we will be covering in this module is we're going to look at the cognitive development theories. We will start with the Piaget theory, as I mentioned earlier in the previous modules, that we will be looking at the theory of John Piaget on cognitive development. We'll be looking at information processing theory and the development of cognition development in different life stages and about the cognitive milestones. Let's look at an overview of basic cognitive development theories. Many years ago, it was believed that an infant was unable to think or form any complex ideas until they learned the concept of language. However, baby today, we know that the babies are fully aware of their surroundings and they wish to explore from the moment they are born. Even in the hours following the birth, they are gathering information, sorting information, processing, and looking at the information around them, ultimately using the information that they are receiving to develop perceptions. So that's how the babies develop perceptions. Cognitive development leads to information processing, reasoning, intelligence, memory, and language development. So that's where the cognitive development helps in developing processing, reasoning, intelligence, as well as memory and language development. Historically speaking, the study of child cognitive development has been done in several ways. The first way that was done in 1900s through IQ tests, which is today is some places are also using the IQ test, which is developed, introduced in early 1900. Another way of measuring cognitive development was based on learning theory that was developed by John Watson and B.F. Skinner. They argued that the children are malleable, and they believed that the development of child's intelligence was solely based on their environment. Further, they believe that the child learned based on the behavior rewards. Cognitive development refers to child mental and intellectual growth, which starts at birth and continue to well develop into their late adolescence. So let's look at John Piaget's theory. The most well-known and most influential theory of cognitive development comes from John Piaget, who's a Swiss psychologist. His theory, which was published in 1952, is based on decades of observing children, and that includes his own children, in a natural environment. Though Piaget was highly interested in the way the child reacts to their environment, he focused his theory based on schemas. So these are basic units of knowledge that a child uses to organize their parts of past experiences and to understand new experiences. So Piaget theorized that the schemas were always being changed by processes that he called assimilation and accommodation. So according to Piaget, assimilation is the process where a person learns new information by incorporating it into something they already know. And accommodation, on the other hand, is what happens when the schemas change in order to accommodate different knowledge. So when the schemas change, that accommodates the new information. So Piaget claimed that the cognitive development was developed by equilibration. So, which is an attempt to balance accommodation and assimilation. At the center of his theory, Piaget claimed that the cognitive development happens in 4 different stages, each of which becomes more sophisticated and abstract than the last. And following is what we're going to talk about those stages. So he says there is a sensory motor stage, which is from birth to 2 years. So the sensory motor stage occurs in infancy. And during this period, there are 6 substages. In this stage, Piaget stated that the child display his or her intelligence through their motor activities. So the children that are involved birth to 2 years in the motor activities is how they are expressing their intelligence. So this stage includes like infancy and early toddlerhood, something little before 18 months. Then he talks about pre-operational stage from 2 to 7 years. In this stage, Piaget mentioned that there are 2 substages. Here, a child shows their intelligence through using symbols, and intelligence and memory are developed. So thinking, however, is done in a non-logical manner, he said. This stage includes later toddlerhood and early childhood. That's 2 through 7 years of age. Then he talks about concrete operational stage, which is age 7 years to 11 years. In this stage, he says that a child demonstrates intelligence through a systematic and logical method by using symbols. This stage occurs during primary school and lasts until adolescence, early adolescence age. Then he talks about formal operational stage, which is 12 years to adulthood. That's the 12 years all the way to adulthood. During this stage, a child demonstrates their intelligence by using logical series of symbols which are related to concepts that are not easily understood. And he says that only 35% of the people in the world reach that stage, because that stage does require something that we call it receiving a formal education. So this stage occurs from adolescence to adulthood. At this point, the person is capable of hypothetical and deductive reasoning. They also have developed the ability to think about abstract concepts. That's from 12 and up. The information processing theory, the final theory that is important in cognitive development, is the information processing theory. This is seen as an alternative to the Piaget theory, and it uses computers as a model for a human mind. So I want you to know that this is a modern theory, and researchers study how intelligence improves with the child's ability to take in more information, and they focuses on their attention to their task at hand. And it also looks at child's capacity for memory storage. So that is known as information processing theory, which, like I said, it is something that is more of a modern theory using the computer model for the human mind. Cognitive development theory in infancy. So we're going to go back into the infant age. As soon the baby is born, they will start to use their senses to learn about the world around them. Most newborns can focus on moving objects. So they focus on moving objects, tell the difference between sound, pitches, volumes. They see colors, and they anticipate events as such as feeding time. So by the time they are 3 months old, an infant will recognize faces, imitate expressions, and respond to sounds. When the child is about 6 months old, they will imitate sounds, share their voice with the world, fear a stranger, recognize their family members, and being able to distinguish between inanimate and moving object. So they also know that if they drop something, right, at that age, they can pick it up. By 4 to 7 months, they know their names. So when a child is about to be 9 months old, they can imitate actions, understand words such as no, and they realize that the object actually exists. Even though they might not be able to see it, they are also able to begin testing to the response of others in terms of their own behavior. For example, they might throw their food on the floor to see how mom will react. So they start doing that as reaching the 9 months old. As the child reaches the first birthday, they can follow quick objects with their eyes. They start to say a few words, imitate the sounds of animals make, and associate a name with an object. They also will develop attachment and have separation anxiety when away from their families. And if you remember, I mentioned Mary Ainsworth study, if you wanted to check that out. And she was actually working with a 14 months old in terms of looking at the separation anxiety and the attachment theory and what happens and which one is a healthy attachment versus something that is unhealthy attachment, and so on and so forth. So at 18 months, they can understand up to 50 words. They can point out body parts, feel ownership of saying my toy, and they can also follow multiple step directions, such as picking up said toy and placing them in the box. So you can ask them, pick it up and put it into the box. So this is the type of instruction they begin to understand. Now we're looking at the toddler's years, right? So by the time the child reaches 18 months old, they are now in the toddler's age of life, and that is lasts until the 3 years old. These children understand the objects and people have place. They know the objects and people have places. They actually follow and understand when things or people are out of place, and they can use tools and instruments. And that is the age from 18 months all the way going to 3 years of age. Toddlers will want more independence now, which can be an issue for parents, and they understand discipline and behavior. They also understand words such as thank you and please. So imagine that from that age, maybe for a lot of the parents, and it's important to note that from that age, they do understand to say thank you, to say please, and they know what it means. So thank you means somebody's appreciating what they're doing, and please mean they're requesting something for someone to do. So maybe as early as 18, 19 months of age, we begin to have these sort of words, these magic words to be used. Now we're moving into like preschoolers age. Now, those who are preschoolers are at the pre-operational stage, according to Piaget's theory. This means that they are using their memory and imagery skills. So they should start memorizing as a way to learn, and they are usually quite self-centered. So at that age where as they're going into the preschool age, it's a time for them to, they're pretty quick because they use a lot of their memory and imagery skills. So it's a good time to actually have them memorize something. And these children have also developed new social interaction skills, such as cooperating with others and learn more about negative behaviors, such as lying, being cheeky, and bullying. Going back to the memorization, I wanted to make sure that memorization is not every child can memorize. Now, it's just that we're talking about a normal trajectory of growth. So it's not like I'm not recommending people to put people in like memorization courses, but that's something that a general area where they can memorize. It's not necessarily going into a memorization zone to something heavily memorized, but that's where they're calling things out of their imagery and memory. So that's what I'm trying to say. Um, Cognitive development in school age children. So we just moved out of the preschool age to school age. Young children aged from 7 to 12 are at this concrete operation stage, according to Piaget. So, known as concrete operations stage. This is characterized by use of coherent and logical actions when thinking and solving their problems. These children understand that things such as weight, volume, and values remain constant, regardless of their outward appearances. These children learn from their past experiences, and their attention span should expand from 15 minutes to 1 hour by the time they age 9. So you can gradually expand their ability to pay more attention. And again, I wanted to go back to the same concept. This is normally speaking about the children who don't have any developmental delays. They're not ADHD and so on and so forth. So you have to consider these things. It's not set in stone. From the age of 12 years to adulthood, these children are at Piaget's formal operation stage. This is characterized by the increased independent thinking skills, and they know how to work through a problem on their own. Adolescents should understand higher math concepts and philosophy. Adolescents should also learn to apply general knowledge to most situations, and they should learn the necessary skills required for a specific occupations. One major component that occurs during this time is called cognitive transition. This means that they think in a way that are more advanced, complex, efficient when compared with younger children. So now at the age, comparing with the younger children, now you can see these young people can actually solve complex problems, and they also are very efficient and in comparing with the other children. These older children can make their interpretation of event based on their own point of view, which also allows them to have more complicated and sophisticated relationship with others. The adolescents are also more likely to see concepts as relative instead of absolute. Young children see things black and white, whereas these adolescents can see things with the shades of gray. They might question their parents or other adults, such as teachers and whoever is in their life, as they are less likely to accept things as they stand. So this is an important point to note. So if you're a teacher, and a young person or a student is throwing out challenging questions and asking you, because you know that now that they are very different in developing their own point of view, so they can continue to argue with you. So that does not mean that makes them bad, or that doesn't negate what they are saying. That's what they are doing. They're interpreting the events, and based on those events, they're creating or developing their own point of views. And they know how to develop sophisticated relationships outside. And then these adolescents, like I said, they don't see it things absolute. They see it relative, and they're unlike they're unlike children who see things black and white versus they see the shades of gray. And one more point to move before we move on, that They might question you. If you're a parent, they might question you, they might argue with you, they might continue to spend the next 3 hours without taking break to continue to push their thinking. It's nothing negative about it. It's just that's the way they are developing, and that's the way we're supposed to accept it, and that's the way we need to be. And I mentioned that earlier back in my module number 1, or perhaps 2, where I said, what is really required for us to, when we have children, is to be able to, discuss issues with them, allow them to share their opinions, their thoughts, and really listen to them, what they are trying to say. Because, if you think about it, you if you're an adult in their life, and you have a 18 years old, and I'm assuming you must be around 30 plus, that 18 years old born in a very different age versus you being 35 years old, you can never get there, and you can't see what they're seeing, and they cannot understand what you're trying to say. So you have to find that happy medium. You have to allow them to express themselves, and that's really, it's not, and I wanted to say that it's not to play some sort of a gimmick with them. Oh, let them say it, and let me find somebody to, maybe kill their creativity, right? Maybe let me talk to somebody who can tell them something different. Why would you want your child to know something different? He or she is developing with their own point of view. They have the right to have their own point of view. Why aren't we understanding this part when we know for sure, based on cognitive development theories, that that's how the adolescents are developing? Why pushing yourself on them? Now, I'm not saying you can't discuss issues with them. You can share your point of view, and your point of view might be very valid, but that's not how they're taking it. Like I said, they're not just going to take things as they stand. They're going to come back to you, and if you push them too hard, then I can tell you one thing out of my own experience, and because I work with children, and you can imagine, I work all the way from preschool to college age, then they're not going to talk to you. And if you push them too hard, and you always have this black and white answer to their questions, they won't ask you. So they'll ask somebody else, and you may not like those answers. So keep in mind about adolescent age. It's a very critical period in their life. You just have to be around them. And I recommend you reading a book called Nudging. And it's an interesting book. All you have to do is to nudge your children. You have to kind of, give them a little push from left and right, so they are not too far off from norms. So let them develop, let them come back to you, but listen to them, because now you know what it takes to work with these children, because their cognitive developments. Now, what I'm going to do quickly, I'm going to go to these milestones age by age. So the following is the accepted and normal milestones of cognitive development during the first 5 years of life. Here we go. Month 1, babies watch person when they speak. So they look at you. Now they're able to see you when you speak. Month 2, babies smile when they hear a familiar person speak, and will follow the movement of the person with eyes. So we know when you move yourself, you'll see the baby's eyes will move as well. Month 4, baby will show interest in things such as new toy, and new things that are around them. So they'll see that interest. You watch them, and 4 months old. 5 months, baby will smile at themselves in a mirror, and they look when objects move or fall. 6 months, baby starts making faces, stick their tongue out, and laugh at simple games. They might also be shy around people they do not know. So they will give you that expression that they probably don't want to talk and look, and they may actually cry over that. 7 months, baby will respond to their names, so that's normally accepted. So by 7 months, they can respond to the name. 8 months, baby will reach for an object and respond to when they're told no. So when you tell them no while they're reaching, they know what no means. Not necessarily what no means, but they know you cannot be reaching out to that object. Parents know that the baby's likes and dislikes at this time, but they might show excitement when faced with something like, or cry when faced with something they dislike. So at this time, they can show their expression by crying something they like or they dislike. 10 months, babies can understand few words. They can wave goodbye and help their caretaker when dressing. 11 months, babies repeat things like get a laugh. They also like repetitive play. You can watch them at that age. They would like you to play the same cartoon or the show that they, while you're feeding them, that's what their thing is all about. They also show interest in books at 11 months age. Babies at the 12 months understand simple questions such as, where is the dog? Right? So babies begin to understand the simple questions. And 15 months, children point to ask for an object and they start to feed themselves. Okay. 18 months, children can point to objects when asked about them and they mimic adult actions. 2 years old, children can name several familiar objects and they can draw with crayons and they can obey simple rules. So 3 years, children will constantly ask questions and some can count up to 10. This is the age where they're just gonna go on and on and on, and then just, I think that never ends, by the way, because this questioning is I think all the way till they're reaching their early 20s, I believe, or maybe not even then, maybe early 20s, I guess. They also will love drawing, playing with a group, and they can discuss things that happens to them. At that age, they can do that. They can actually discuss things, what happened at the 3 years of age. 4 years old, children often make up silly stories and words. They draw familiar things. They recognize many common words. If they don't know what a word means, they will ask. 5 years old, children will recognize shapes, numbers, letters. They will also tell lengthy stories, understand when events are real and when they are make-believe. So that's 5 years old. Now, in conclusion, what we have done today is we went through the cognitive development we learned that it's a natural process that all of us go through during our childhood. It begins from the moment we're born and it continues into adulthood. In most cases, the development is normal, but in some people, development issues and problems may cause delay, and that's where you have some of the issue with cognitive development. Some of the most common issues related to cognitive development include disabilities and autism. And any disorder that affects person's ability to interpret what they see or hear could be a cognitive disorder. And with this, we are reaching to the end of module number 3 of child psychology. And congratulations to all of you. Thank you all very much for watching. We shall see you in module number 4. Take good care of yourself. God bless you all.